Hello, my name is Remedy Murray, and my library assignment graphic novel that I selected is called Bitch Planet. The creative team is Kelly Sue DeConnick, I believe that's how she pronounces her name, and her artist was Valentino Di Landro, and it's published by Image Comics. And this version of it is roughly 145 pages, at least by how I was trying to count it. I think that's the correct number of pages. So, um, this was pretty interesting. It kind of put me in a frame of thought of Hunger Games meets Orange is the New Black. If if I had to compare it to like movies and shows or something like that, it kind of put me in that type of feel for the storyline. There was a plot, and there was also a B plot, and a C plot. Actually, there was a lot going on in this graphic novel. Um, Act one, I believe, just from how I tried to break it down in like the different sections, and I believe this was maybe a 4-act book, just from how the pages go. So I tried to like section it off as to where in the story I thought I was moving on to the next section. So I believe this is a 4-act graphic novel, but mostly it didn't seem like Act Two was had more of a story in it than Act One. It just seemed like they were really like even number of pages actually, and Act One um ends on page 28, and Act Two begins on page 31. So that's that is roughly around here. So by my count, which I could be wrong, but I think this is kind of where Act Two started. So the main character in the book, her name is I believe it's pronounced Kamaya Congo, and technically, some of the women who have done certain things or some sort of crime or shown emotion or aggression in some sort of manner was sent to this planet, was sent to Bitch Planet, which is an incarceration center for women. And it's like really high tech. One of the things I noticed about it is like it's a really high tech to where they are placing people in a center of a room, and then they're like putting holograms in there to like guilt trip them. There's one called Guilt. There's one like an angel that's just kind of listening and be sympathetic with you. It was really interesting. It really was. I kind of dug it. It was a little hard for me to follow along with at first because there are so many panels per page, and it's like it gets different. It was a lot going on some of them where I couldn't tell whether I was to read all of one side and go to the next, or I couldn't tell if I needed to. In some cases, I needed to like go across to read the bubbles of what the characters were saying, and it took me a little while to kind of like really catch on to it, um, with all of the panels and stuff that was going on. The storyline, I actually kind of liked it. There was a woman who her husband somehow filed a complaint on her and sent her to a Bitch Planet, and she really didn't belong there. But as it turns out, he was kind of cheating on her and wanted to hook up with the new lady, and she's in there, and she ends up killed by a guard. And Kamaya Congo was framed for her murder, and they were trying to use her to fight in a Megaton fight of like it's kind of like a game, but people actually died. So that's why I said it kind of puts me in a frame of Hunger Games, and she just wasn't on it. She was denying it, and they were trying to do everything possible to get her to agree to this. And then even some of the inmates who it seemed like they kind of had their own agenda, um, was kind of like pressuring her to do it. I think they were gonna like try to escape, and so that they wanted her to put together this team, which I thought was really good. But it seemed like the B plot of the story. The A plot of the story was, of course, the murder taking place. The B plot of the story was getting her to agree to form a team for Bitch Planet to compete in this megathon. And then the C plot of it was the fathers is like it kind of puts you in the mind of a jury trial, and they all come on and they kind of judge you about what you've done, and they try to like kind of guilt trip you, and then but they're also like trying to get funding for it as well. So toward the end, on like the C plot, one of the people who agreed to do some funding and agreed to kind of join and work with the fathers, he's doing it because his daughter is in there. And at the end, at the end of the book, there's like a game against the inmates, the women inmates and the guards, and they killed the daughter. So it was like an excellent setup for number two. It was a really excellent setup for that. Um, what's some of the other things it's asking about? Yeah, if the how effective was the transitions? I think it did really good. Like going from, I was able to, once I kind of got a flow for how the panels were going and how the characters were speaking. It kind of flowed, like it was transitioning from one thing to another. But at first, I was confused because they did a flashback, and it took me a second. Like I had to kind of go back and read the previous page bubbles to realize that the next page was a flashback, which was really cool to kind of see. When you're writing a movie or a television show, and you indicate the flash, there's an indication of the flashback. And usually when you're watching those mediums, you can automatically tell that the character is thinking back in time. On here, it just kind of goes to the next page. And it was interesting. So it was like I had to kind of go back and read the previous page to kind of understand that, oh, okay, this is a flashback, kind of showing how the women landed on Bitch Planet, which is why I said it kind of reminded me of Orange is the New Black. In the second season of Orange is the New Black, they just kind of start uh, revealing other characters outside of Piper and showing how they kind of got into Litchfield in the first place. So that's why I said it kind of reminded me of that, which was really cool because it was showing how some people kind of ended up in there. And then the fathers would kind of guilt trip them and bring up their past and the issues that they did. So it was really interesting to read. Um, I think it was effective as a comic, but I would say, I mean, it was a lot of story. Like, look at this. Like, these, to me, and I'm new to this, but it's a lot of panels on here. I mean, it's a lot of panels. It's like they're really stuffing a a really, like it has three plots. So they're stuffing this story, and they're just kind of breaking it up into all these panels. So if you're new to this, this particular one will kind of confuse you a little bit if you're new to reading comics and how they flow. So in the beginning, it did kind of throw me a little bit that there was just so many panels, but not all of them had where the characters was talking. It was just kind of showing things. I also learned from reading this how characters, when they speak and they say one thing, and usually it kind of moves on to the next panel, but it kind of, there was times where the character would say something, the other character will respond, and they'll say something else. So I got a chance to kind of see um, bubble wise what that would look like uh, for them doing it. It was it was really interesting. I thought the storyline was good. The character, Kamayo, she was like badass. You know, she was, you know, the fathers had kind of talked about her having some athletic ability, and the person who they actually framed her for her murder, she was trying to protect her, and just, you know, she was like kicking the guards' butts. It's like two and three of them, and she's just like going through it. There's a scene in here where they're taking a shower, and there's a peeping Tom. One of the guards is a peeping Tom, and the cameras doesn't watch them when they're in the shower. So, you know, he doesn't tell on them if they let him watch, as some of the women kind of engaged into activities with each other. And so she went in there one day, and you know, she's kind of like, you know, giving herself the rub down and things, and he's watching, and she just like snatches the pipe out the you know, the shower pipe, and just kind of rips him through the wall. So yeah, she was kind of like badass, you know. So actually, I'm gonna go on and kind of read volume two, actually, you know, and see where the story goes. So that's my take on Bitch Planet. It was really cool. So hope you liked it.